Hey everyone, welcome back to the Rideshare Hub. I'm Jacob Letman. Before we get going with today's video, I know a lot of you could use a little extra income right now. So if you'd like, in the video description below, we have a link where you can click to sign up for Instacart. If you need some extra money, that's a great way to earn some right now. Check it out in the video description below. Hey, and welcome back to the Rideshare Hub. I'm Jacob Letman. I feel like I'm a frontline news reporter coming to you live from the front lines as we update you on what's going on in the world with this sickness as it spreads across the world and what it means to you. I used to do that. I don't really miss those days of reporting. I'd much rather come here and talk to you guys about stuff and help our rideshare community. It's much lower pressure for sure. Anyway, a lot of stuff going on. This article, this video that I'm going to talk about, I'm going to be referencing. Here's the deal. YouTube is monitoring videos, and they're demonetizing videos that mention certain keywords. So I want to say COVID-19, right? But I'm just going to call it the sickness. So if I mention the sickness, I'm not uneducated. That's our code word, okay? That'll help me so I can say what I'm going to. Here's the deal. I just got done reading an article on Business Insider that was posted yesterday, and it's basically about how Uber is snubbing drivers that either have the sickness or are at high risk of getting the sickness, because Uber created, as you may or may not know at this point, Uber created a sick leave of type, sick pay for 14 days of assistance for drivers who have been self-quarantined, who have been quarantined because they can provide documentation that shows they have the sickness, or have been instructed to do so by a doctor. But anyway, this article, it follows the story of some drivers, gives information on how drivers that were either at high risk of getting the sickness or, I think that's, Frenet talks about Frenet, and he was highly susceptible. Anyway, so it's a good article. It's worrisome. It kind of goes to show how Uber is not, they really don't put their drivers first, as many of us know, right? But you hope in a situation like what's going on in the world, they would step up and do the right thing to help their drivers. Like, you would think that would be their top priority. Hey, these guys have been with us driving, and in the article, it says ride requests might be down as much as 94%. I didn't look to see where they got that number, but it would not be surprising to me. And it's crazy. It really feels like they don't have any sense of responsibility in any way to step up and sort of find a way to help their drivers. Somebody refers to Uber's 14-day sick leave policy as a, what am I looking to say? It's like a PR move. Thank you. Sorry, my brain. All sorts of stuff going on in there. And as a PR move, to look like they're doing the right thing to help their drivers. But we don't really have numbers on how many drivers they've actually helped. And so what's interesting about this is I want to make this video so that you can kind of protect yourself and give you a guideline of what I think is the best way to approach this should you have the sickness. If you do actually have it, you're in a better situation than most people, because that gives you concrete documentation from a doctor that says, hey, I actually have this, I need to stay home, I can't work. So it's very black and white at that point, and really Uber doesn't have a way to get around that. They have a policy that says if someone has the sickness and it's documented and we receive that we will pay you for 14 days. How they determine that pay, by the way, is based on a calculation they do based on how many rides you've given, and it's kind of in depth, but we're not going to get into that in this video. So point being, if you actually do have documentation that you have the sickness and you've been staying home for it, what I would do is first, I would submit for unemployment insurance benefits. First, do that if you can. And if you've done this in reverse, it's okay. But first do that because, again, it's now expanded to accept self-employed personnel to apply. And if you have that documentation, that's like a slam dunk for you. And then after you've done that, you should then apply for sick leave with Uber, and Lyft has a program as well, if you drive for both. Submit to them, letting them know, give them the documentation, send that to them. Your accounts will be deactivated for now, but you can get financial assistance for 14 days from those companies. Now, the bad deal, and this is what this article is talking about, is people who are highly susceptible. Let me back up really quick. The first problem for people is that it's the resources. It's extremely difficult to be able to even go and get the test in some places. In Arizona, you have to get a doctor's note. You have to go and get checked and be a high-risk person. They have to think that you do have it, basically, before you can get a note to even go and get tested. So the majority of people aren't going to go through that process when it's easier to just self-isolate and stay home. But for the sake of financial assistance with Uber or Lyft, if you do feel sick, like you have symptoms, then your best option is to figure out whatever you need to do in order to get tested. Because if you do, that documentation is gold. Now, people who are highly susceptible and have gotten notes to stay home and self-isolate to protect themselves, we're seeing that Uber is not upholding what they've said in helping people out with that financial assistance, which is garbage. It's absolutely garbage. So my thought is that they're just doing whatever they can to get around helping to pay drivers. And the worst part is that they, in turn, once you submit that saying, I have this doctor's note that says I should self-isolate, they just deactivate you right away. And if you read through this article, you can see how they've given the runaround to people. They just giving them the runaround. They're like, well, you don't qualify because this or that. It's messed up. Yeah. Is that what I wanted to say? Is there anything else I wanted to say on this? Let's see. Again, this is just what I would say. If you have gotten that documentation that you do have the sickness and you've had to self-quarantine, submit that to Uber and Lyft if you drive for them. See if you can get financial assistance through them, but be warned that they will deactivate your account. So you can do that and seek that financial assistance, or maybe you wait and no, I would do that because we don't know when rides are going to start picking back up again. And then after that, apply for unemployment insurance benefits in your state. If you're a driver that's highly susceptible, but you don't have any documentation that says you either should self-isolate from a doctor. Actually, if you don't have documentation, I would say the safest bet is to not send anything to Uber or Lyft, because once you do, they're going to deactivate you right away because they're trying to eliminate risk, and they don't want to seem negligent for allowing drivers that communicated to them saying anything that they let them drive. Anyway, so where was I at? Okay, so if you do have it and you have documentation, submit that. If you're just self-isolate, then skip Uber and Lyft. Don't say anything to them, but apply for unemployment insurance benefits through your local state website. And, if you have symptoms, then go about trying to get tested to find out if you actually do have it, because then you can, in turn, get that documentation and you can provide that to Uber or Lyft. And hopefully they uphold what they said, and they do indeed pay out sick pay to you. All right. If you guys have any more thoughts or information on this, or if you do have the sickness and you submitted your documentation to Uber or Lyft, let us know how that process went and if they indeed did pay you and if they paid you well. All of that is pertinent information that we're all interested in hearing. All right, you guys. That's what I got for you. I'm Jacob Letman. This is Rideshare Hub. Until next time, stay safe out there.